Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. Man, do I have another fun interview for you? And this guy has been on my radar forever. In fact, in the first year of Boomerocity, one of the interviews I did was with none other than Chad Smith of Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it was for his little side project called Bombastic Meatbats. And if you don't have any of their records, you're hurting. You need to get them. But anyway, I first heard Jeff's name, Jeff Kollman, as he was the guitar player on that album. I thought, wow. And for whatever reason, in the 15 years since, we just never hooked up until now. Jeff's got a brand new album called 2023 AD. And if you're familiar with Jeff at all, you know that you're going to get an incredible mix of all sorts of great music, styles, tones, the whole nine yards. If you're not familiar with him, you're going to need to be, because this guy is a virtuoso of any style. And he does it because he loves it, not because he's trying to impress you with a broad range of styles. He writes what he feels, he plays what he feels, and nobody's going to tell him to do any different. But man, what a treat it was just to sit and talk with him by Zoom, and had a lot of fun, had a lot of great stories, and just a super, super nice guy to chat with. So I encourage you to listen to it in its entirety. And if you don't mind, at the end of it, would you go ahead and hit like? And if you're not already a subscriber to whatever channel that you're listening or watching this on, could you subscribe too? Because it's not going to cost you anything, but it helps us out tremendously. And while you're at it, go ahead and share this with your friends and ask them to do the same thing. So without any further ado, this is my first of what I hope are many more interviews with guitar great Jeff Kollman. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care.
Hey,
There you are. You've been on my radar a long time. I remember I've wanted to talk to you for years, and it's just never happened. And in fact, I think somewhere around the first Meatbats album came out, and I actually got to interview Chad and
oh, okay.
saw all you guys on there. And it's like, so I've been watching you a while. And this,
Okay.
I'm honored to finally be able to chat with you. So,
Well, cool.
so before we get started on this album, we got to ask you a couple of things. First of all, talking about the Meatbats, is there ever going to be another Bombastic
There,
Meatbats
there will
album?
be. Yeah. You know, when Chad's done printing money with the Chili Peppers,
Isn't that the truth?
he probably made 60 million bucks this last time I recorded and jammed with him in a room. But
Yeah,
besides him being on the record, but yeah, he's you know, good for him.
yeah,
But yeah, we'll do something for
cool.
sure.
Very good. You going to work with Glenn Hughes again? I interviewed him a few years back.
Yeah, I mean, every 3 years something happens. The last time I worked with him was 2018. Maybe even early 2019, we did the classic Deep Purple live in New Zealand, Australia, then the US. So, and I just saw him on a cruise. I said, we got to do a record. He's doing one right now with Soren Anderson that he has to get finished for Frontiers.
Hmm.
But I said, next year, let's do something. So, yeah, we'll do
Cool.
something.
Cool. Well, let's talk when that stuff comes out. So,
Yeah.
and one final thing, I saw where you lived in Phoenix for a while. I wasn't born there, but I was pretty much raised there. And I'm also on, I'll be darned, you're not going to believe this, but a bear is walking across my yard right now.
Where are you at?
I'm in the Smoky Mountains.
Oh,
That same bear was by here yesterday hanging around my car. I think he liked my car. So, but anyway, I grew up in Phoenix, and I'm on Dave Pratt's Star Worldwide Networks there. You know Dave, don't you?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah.
how long were you in Phoenix?
I was there for a year and a half.
Wow, okay.
My intention was just to go to Los Angeles, but I didn't want to go to LA cold from Toledo, not knowing where to live or
Yeah.
it was actually the perfect move because I started doing sessions out of Phase 4 Studios in Phoenix and another studio. I got to work with like Patti LaBelle and Wayman Tisdale and some studio session guys like Kenny Aronoff, Matt Rollins for another project, and
Mhm.
Linda McCartney. I did
Wow.
demos for her out of Phoenix. So I got my feet wet. If I would have went to LA studios, well, number one, I wouldn't have got those sessions. But number two, I wouldn't have been quite ready.
Yeah, yeah.
So it prepared me.
Very good. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, tell me about this new album. How many solo albums did this make? Between the EPs and the singles and all that, I was losing count and my eyes were crossing.
Well, the thing is I have different groups like Cosmo Squad. There's like 5 albums, right? The
Right.
Meatbats, 2 studio and a live. I have like 9 solo records, but then there's another 2 that I sing on that are Jeff Kollman band instead of just my name. So I don't know, there's at least 20, 25 different things. So
Wow.
yeah,
Nice. So
fun
tell me
stuff.
about this album. What's different for you about this album than all those others and any others that you worked on for other people?
I still follow the same concept as I do with my other solo records. It's important for it to have a flow and a cohesiveness. And I have my inspired songs on there that, I like on a previous record, I had written a song called Silence in the Corridor. Actually, it was the name of the album too, which is a tribute to Gary Moore because he had just passed away. So I have these, I can't help but have tributes to people, that mean everything to me. On the new record, Edward Van Halen passed away October 6th, 2020. And the day after he died, I wrote a homage to King Edward song for him. And I vowed that every year on the eve of his passing, I'm going to do something creative in the studio. I'm not going to be on a vacation. I'm not going to be at Walmart or with my wife at Costco. And I'm going to be recording music. And
Yep.
I'm going to record a song that said somehow I'll be thinking about Edward. It doesn't mean I'm going to record a song that sounds like him. I'm just going to think about, not taking music for granted and the gift that we have, everybody has, whether they play music, art, everybody has a gift, whether they actually know it or not, or pay attention to it or, allow it to grow. That's, people always just say, well, you're naturally talented. I don't have talent. Like everybody, you want to see no talent, watch me try to draw something. But, the reality is if I studied it, got into it, like anything, you got to really get into it, then, then that blossoms. So,
Right.
um, on the new record, there's a song called 2 Years Ago Today. And in the liner notes, it's a tribute to Edward, October 6th, 2022. That song was written and recorded 2 years after the eve of his passing. So, to further answer your question, the new record, I'm I'm getting better at with each album taking more time thinking about arrangement, structure, the sonic spectrum. Even though my hearing's getting worse with tinnitus, my mixes are getting better always, and I don't have any regrets with this record. And the other thing is I'm getting better and more patient and going, okay, this song, Cosmic Dust, I need the right bass player. I need the right arrangement. I need the right, okay, Shane, I need the right approach to this song. And I got Jimmy Johnson on that song from Alan Holdsworth's group.
Mhm.
I tried another bass player on that track and like, man, it's just not hitting the mark. And I
Mhm.
thought, you know what? I was thinking about Jimmy Johnson when I wrote this song. So I emailed him. I'm friends with Michael Landau, and he plays with Mike on all his solo stuff. And him and Mike also play for James Taylor. And Jimmy Johnson, he was Holdsworth's bass player for all those years, and he's one of my all-time favorites. So I emailed him, and I sent him the track. He says, I like the harmonic content. Who's the drummer? He keeps it real simple like that. I said, Shane Gallis. And he goes, yeah, I'll play on it. So I sent him a nice clean chart. He could read the whole thing and roadmap. And I said, Jimmy, I'm hiring you to be you. Plain and simple. So don't overthink it. Just do your thing. And every nuance, every note, all the interplay with Shane is just incredible. So maybe the old me would go, I'll just play bass on this, because I can and I know the harmony and it wouldn't be as good. So as I get older, I take a little more time, don't rush. And even just putting out the record, I didn't rush to put it out. I was going to do a deal with another label, ended up hooking up with Chipster PR, who is, the PR guy for Chad and the Meatbats, right?
Right.
It started raining, so I had to come back inside. I'm in the UP, Escanaba, Michigan,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
at the beach house of the bass player. See, that's it. When you're 29 years old, you don't have beach houses. You know, me and Shane rented a house and we for like $1,200, and we are trying to figure out where we're gonna get the split the 1,200 from. And we built a studio with mattresses that you find at the junkyard, at the God knows where, and you stuff the ceiling with it. Now you're older, it's like, you got a bass player with a beach house, and I got a California house, I got an Indiana house, and you have more headache. But, I guess that's the payoff for the. Hard work over the years.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah. So welcome to Escanaba.
Well, cool. I've got a cousin up in Michigan and a friend up at gosh, he's a DJ with the Frog up there in the UP somewhere. I forget which town it is.
Yeah.
Steve Orchard. But anyway, it's been years since I've been up that way. So, how long did it take you to put this album together once you decided you're going to do it?
Not long. It took a lot longer to mix it, and then it took even longer to get the right label deal together. And again, so taking time to do that, let's do it right. I would say most of the record was recorded in like 5 weeks. Yeah. I have ideas sitting around and stuff like the song I had written and recorded with Chad Smith. I wrote that song for the Bombastic Meatbats. But as we were like 2 or 3 songs into rehearsing for a record, writing rehearsals, maybe that's when, I don't know if it was Klinghoffer or Frusciante. I get confused in the order of events. I mean, I think maybe that's when they were bringing John back. So the Chili Peppers machine was starting up. So then I'm doing this new record. I was like, man, that would be a great song for this album. It would fit in perfectly in this spot after Tribal Scream. Same tuning. I have my own culmination tuning. And so I texted Chad or called him or something, said, hey, man, you mind if I use this track? And I'd love to have you play on it. He goes, dude, it's your song. Yeah, absolutely. And it looked like he wasn't going to be able to play on the track because he was so busy that week with Iggy Pop and doing sessions for Rick Rubin.
Mhm.
The Chili Peppers were really busy, which they still are. And he texted me on a Thursday, man, what are you doing today at 1 p.m.? I said, I'm at Shane's studio. That's where it all happens. Or at least the drum tracks.
Mhm.
Simi Valley. And Chad showed up at 1 on the dot, and we talked about Kiss and how the Lions are doing in football. And at this point, the Super Bowl, they hadn't lost the playoffs for the Super Bowl, so there was hope still. I think he tracked it in, October. Or November of, 28. I don't, who knows? It's confusing now. And so he came over, laid it down. We talked about Kiss and our first concerts, and then he was off to the Lakers game with his daughter. And but he's great. He sits down at the drum set. Okay. He's like, wow, this is like a professional studio. He puts the phones on. Sounds amazing. I mean, Shane Gallus is literally my favorite drummer in the world. And his drum tones are just ridiculous. So, Chad, even though Chad's like worth a fortune, right? I go to Chad's studio in Malibu. It's like a tiki hut. There's a fish tank, a pool table, and a drum set. I'm like, where's the studio? He's like, I don't have a studio. He goes, I work in studios all day long. What do I want the studio for? I'm like, I get it. That's our interior room. And but yeah, he sits down at Shane's kit. They try a couple snares. I love drummers hanging, and those guys totally hit it off. It's funny because Shane looks so much like Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah.
And Shane is kind of almost a super Taylor, meaning like he can do everything Taylor can do, but he certainly can do a lot of other things that maybe Taylor, because Shane grew up, studying with Efren Toro, who can play tablas, and he knows more about, Latin, Afro-Cuban, Mozambique, all these polyrhythms. I watched him destroy Terry Bozzio in a duo together. It was just the two. It was Efren Toro and Terry Bozzio. He's no slouch, right?
Right.
And my friend Ed Roth walks in and goes, hey, who's the old guy kicking your boy's ass up there? Hey, that's Efren Toro. Woo! He goes, hey, Terry's taking a beating. So Shane's studying with this guy, I mean, like, And he'd be the first to tell you, look, I can't do anything that Efren Toro can do. It's like studying with Bruce Lee and you got a couple moves.
Right.
But yeah, and I remember when Chad first met Shane, because we all met on the same day, I think. No, that was the second record. I produced the record with Glenn Hughes called Songs of the Key of Rock, and I
Mhm.
co-wrote some of the songs. And I'm like 29 just moved from Toledo, Ohio to Phoenix to LA. And suddenly I'm like, I got Phil Mogg at the house and Glenn Hughes, and there's Jolene Turner. Oh, Billy Sheehan's showing. This is the rental house where we're paying like $1,200 a month rent. And we didn't tell the landlord we built a studio in the garage. And when I say studio, I mean a partition wall with a workbench room. We gutted it. I put in like $1,000, Soundcraft board and ADATs and, then it's Pro Tools. And we didn't have any money, you know. Well, trust me, I didn't have a rich childhood. I had a poor childhood.
Mhm.
People are funny when it comes to all that. They're like, okay, rich white kid privileged. I'm like, you have no effing idea the shit I went through. I went to 14 grade schools in 2 years. So let's just start right there.
Military?
No, with an alcoholic mother. We
Uh,
meet a guy at the bar, we move into his house. He'd beat her up. We get out 2 days later, then we move somewhere else. We were gypsy kids.
yeah.
And then my dad bought me a guitar and my brother a drum set, and we moved up to the middle class when I was 12. So, but yeah, it's funny how people are like that. But the point is, I look back to those days and I think about getting guys like, the Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple at the rental house, Phil Mogg, UFO. My friend Dan would call me, dude, we used to play, we even played Paul Chapman era stuff, in like ninth grade, letting go and all this UFO stuff. And of course, Schenker, everything Schenker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like a dream come true. It's so like, what's going to happen when I get to LA? But I met Shane on the way to Los Angeles. You and I talked about Phoenix, Arizona.
Hmm.
Shane was rehearsing with Michael Schenker for the Written in the Sand album. And I started doing some studio sessions there. I walked in with like all the albums that I had already played on, and the head engineer looked at me as, okay, this is going to be my guitar player. I'm going to be his singer. And I thought, he's not going to be my singer, but I'll do some sessions. And suddenly I'm working with like Patti LaBelle, like I mentioned, Wayman Tisdale. There might have been, not Alice Cooper, a couple guys in his band, random stuff. Linda McCartney, the McCartneys were living in Tucson.
Hmm.
And so we were giving her demos a facelift so she could then shop her songs for artists to sing. She felt like original demo ideas. And we had to sign an agreement because some stuff had been let out making fun of Linda, singing. So, you will be sued by, you don't want to mess with the McCartney family.
Not at all.
So I have
Her
those
dad
original.
was a pretty heavy duty attorney. So,
Yeah. And, and I would never do that anyway.
right.
But, so I got my feet wet with all that. But then I met Shane. My brother met Shane because they both had drum sets set up at Phase 4 Studios in like Tempe, Arizona.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, it's interesting because my brother was always my drummer. And then as I moved west, we had a band and tried real hard kind of thing. And we were devastatingly good. But then Nirvana came out and changed the whole landscape. Bands like, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, Skid Row were, done. Dickinson left, Halford left. Skid Row is no more. It's like hair metal's done.
Yeah.
Forget anything, So I was like, ugh. And we weren't even signed yet. We had Japanese deals, and we'd open up with the Dream Theaters, and we destroyed Dream Theater live. We just did. We were like Van Halen 1. Why these guys are Berkeley guys with their hair over their faces playing 20-minute solos. We're like, I'm the one Van Halen with harmonies and in people's faces, and we were better looking. And people were like, I saw you guys play with Dream Theater, you fucking destroyed them. Images, words, tour. I mean, I'm just gonna say it because my brother's no longer with us. So I'm like, fuck it, listen to this band. We kicked all those bands' asses.
Mhm.
But I had to make a tough decision. I'm like, I want to be a freelance musician. I don't want to get stuck in Toledo, Ohio. I've been here too long already. Because I started writing and recording when I was 14. I did my first record as a solo artist at 18. a year after Satriani put out Surfing with the Aliens, so I was way ahead of the game.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, moving west, I felt like my brother kind of handed me off to Shane. Like my brother was a great drummer, but Shane is like even one of the best drummers in the world, bar none. And yeah, I feel like my brother just kind of handed me off to him, and so I've used Shane on every album I've ever done. He's on everything on that new record except for the song with Chad. So
Wow.
yeah,
You were talking about Chad earlier, and when Boomerocity had just started when you guys come out with that album, that Meatbats first Meatbats album, and this first time I worked with Chip, and he
yeah,
said, "Want to talk to want to interview Chad?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." He goes, whatever you do, do not mention cowbells or Will Ferrell." He goes,
right,
"Just don't." I said,
yeah,
"Deal, deal."
yeah. He finally embraced the Will Ferrell thing. Um, he hated it at first because Chad had been around a long time, and actors just become famous overnight. And no discredit to Will Ferrell, he's very talented and very funny, and they actually became really good friends. But at one point, Chad just decided, I'm going to embrace this, and he goes, "Now I'm in household name, I'm getting rich." I go, "Dude, you were already rich." He's funny because he's so Midwest.
Mhm.
I remember him saying to me one time, I go, "Hey, what's Sammy Hagar to we printing money right now?" I go, he goes, "I told him, man, buy me a Ferrari for Christmas or a Lamborghini." And I'm looking at Chad going, "Why don't you buy me a Lamborghini? I gotta get him to buy you one." Funny. But he's still that simple guy from Detroit. He has his Kiss t-shirt on and I mean, it's not saying he doesn't live a life of luxury, but
Right,
that's not what he's about.
right.
He's got his red Mustang and he's got his split window vet and a couple Harleys and he's got his Tesla car that he drives around with the family and he doesn't need a fleet of cars.
Right.
He's like, "Dude, I went to the Lakers game. I was behind Danny Carey. Fucking guy's driving a Lamborghini." I'm like, "I would be too."
So you said you guys would talk about the first so Kiss was your guys' first concert you guys went to?
Yeah. I don't know if it was Chad's first concert, but it was mine and Shane's first concert. What's a great story about Chad is that famous shot where those kids are holding the banner on the back of the cover.
Mhm.
Chad's like 3 rows behind them. I don't think you can see him in the photo. It's a brilliant story because back then, you wrote the box office for tickets. You sent in the money. It was like $4.50, and his mother wrote a letter for him and his brother Brad to go to the concert, and they sent their money into the Cobo Hall, and then the tickets came to them. So Chad and his brother went, or Chad and his buddy, I don't remember who it was. And then they worked their way backstage before the concert. And at one point, they're walking on a corridor, and the guys from Kiss get out. And I think it was the two of the four, like Peter and Ace or Paul and I don't know. And they met him, but they weren't supposed to be back there. They just kind of like wormed their way back.
Yeah,
I love hearing these stories. But yeah, he was like 3 rows behind those kids holding that banner. So
that's
um,
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
I was the same way. My first concert, I'm a little bit older than you, I think, but my first concert was Elvis in Phoenix at Memorial Coliseum. I got
Wow.
there 2 hours early, is in 1973, and I met the Colonel, so I say that that's my first celebrity interview, so anyway, that
Yeah.
was that was fun.
First concert Elvis, that's pretty freaking powerful.
Yeah, and he was still skinny, so it was just a couple months after the, satellite concert, from, Hawaii,
Yeah.
and, I was raised on Elvis. I still have my mom's records that
Oh,
she had
come
when
on.
she was a kid, so,
Oh, salad and
yeah.
get it. Get it. I know all that shit.
Yeah, well,
And I can sing any Willie Nelson song. I can sing any Elvis. I love all that stuff. Roy Orbison.
so were there any surprises in this album when you're putting it together? Something I mean, you've worked on so many, it's probably hard to surprise you, but were there any surprises working on this album?
You mean as far as like going into a style that I haven't done, or maybe one of the surprises is having Jimmy Johnson on there and the way he interacted with Shane and the beauty that that song brought. And I had that idea underneath my fingers, and for a long time, not a long time, but like 2 years, and I thought, "What? How is this? This isn't a backbeat kind of song. This needs to float like ECM, like Peter Erskine. I don't know. It's not Metheny, but it's something from that era. Little
Right.
Holes Were Deep. And it's just beautiful when songs like that come together. Um, I would say one of the surprises is, with the vinyl. Hold on one second. I have a vinyl with me here. So this is the vinyl, right?
Cool. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So the CD is basically 49 minutes long. It's three sides of an album because 49 minutes, you're not going to get that down to one vinyl
Right.
without some degradation, right? Because you
Right.
can really only go like 22 minutes aside. For all those that you might not know, once you get closer to the center, that much time, you got to run into problems
Right.
sonically. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to start taking songs away to just get one single album. I haven't done vinyl in years. I'm like,
Mhm.
screw it. I need a side four. Now that's the surprise. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to Princeton with vinyl. I don't have a side four. So I wrote this tune called 1979. I went to Japan. It's a great story. I go to play a guitar. It's not even a music store. My buddy Hal goes, we're gonna go to music store shopping, but he wants me to play a guitar that his uncle built and just tell me what I think of it. And so I go in this shop, we take our shoes off, we go to the second level. They hand us tea. There's some acoustic guitars sitting here. There's no prices. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm in a music store or a teaching store or what is this, like a yoga studio with guitars? What I don't know where I am, but the people are very polite. So they hand me his guitar. I can feel like the water weight right away. I'm like, this is not going to be good. Hit a chord. I go, Hal, no disrespect to your uncle, but maybe he should stick to his other line of work. I was nice about it. We laughed and we're drinking tea. And I says to the owner of the store, I said, Simasen, I said, Andres Segovia. He's, Segovia. Mm. He says, Toledo, Spain. I said, yeah, Toledo, Spain. I think that's where Segovia is from, or Seville. And I said, chotomate kudasai. I said, I like the Ramirez. He goes, Jose Ramirez. I said, yeah, Jose Ramirez. I said, 1A. Now I'm saying a model of Jose Ramirez. And he goes, Brazilian rosewood? And I go, even better. And he goes, chotomate. And he goes, opens the door to a room, comes out with a guitar in a case, opens it up. I'm looking at a 1979 Jose Ramirez
Oh,
1A. I'm like, that's Brazilian rosewood. I sit down, I hit a chord. I was like, oh God. For sale? Yeah. I'm like, my new friend, my best friend. Let's talk price for old buddy Jeff. Probably a $20,000 guitar. I got it for $3,500. And
whoa.
the thing is, any guitar that's that old, right? 40 something years old, it has to be in perfect climate, 75 degrees, 47% humidity,
Yeah.
nothing too much higher, nothing too much lower. It's going to start cracking.
Mhm.
There's no repaired cracks on this instrument at all. The action is great. It sounds like God. And I'm like, oh God, you know. And then he knocked down the price even more. Yeah, and the yen is weak compared to the dollar. I play with the most famous artist in the history of the country over there. And I got my passport, so I don't have to show tax. I don't have to send it through customs because it's such a big tour that everything goes on a cartage, on a container.
Mhm.
Rocket Cargo will show up to my front door with a semi at the end of the tour with all my gear. So it's a level of touring. So the 1979, the long answer is that's the year I started playing guitar, and I do like a 2-minute classical intro with orchestra, pseudo orchestra. And that ends up being the intro for the bonus track. And then Guy Allison, the keyboard player, who also plays in that Japanese tour with me with the artist Ikiji Izawa. And Guy Allison's been playing with the Doobie Brothers for like 20 years. He's
Mhm.
just an amazing musician. So on that song, he kind of ran with some chord changes and laid out the structure of the song. And then I came and soloed over the top and created melodies. So that's probably the most of a collaboration of any song on the record. Basically, it's everything I wrote and then added, players on top and they added their flavoring. But with this one, he ran with the ideas I had in the intro and then he built a song with it. So that was quite a surprise. And then I brought Rick Firabracci, who's my new neighbor in Indiana, which is amazing. He lives like a stone throw from my house. And Rick played with Chick Corea. He's played with everybody. Rick Firabracci is one of the baddest bass players of the 20th century. And I felt guilty. I didn't have him on the record, but I had already recorded it before he moved to Indiana. He literally lives, which is great because nobody can play music there. Everybody sucks. Besides him and my buddy Marco Villarreal, who graduated from Berkeley. I mean, I know there must be great players, but there's no great drummers in the area. I can't find anybody. There must be a few cats in Chicago,
Yeah.
Certainly blues guys, but it's hard to find guys that can do it all,
Yeah.
Shane Gallus, he could literally, sub for Gene Hoglan or sub for Dave Weckl, or, he can do anything. He could be the drummer of Foo Fighters. He could sing as good as Dave Grohl. He can play guitar. He can do anything. So it's just hard to find guys like that, because in the Midwest, people have 9-to-5 jobs, and
Yeah.
you're not going to be a great musician if you, do something else all day long.
Right.
At least I couldn't. Oh, yeah. So that's a surprise. And then there's the second bonus track is a duet, Friends, and then it ends with the tribute to my brother. And yeah. So, and with the side 4, you can only get those songs on the vinyl.
Wow. They're
They're not going to be available on iTunes or Spotify or anything like that. At least not for now.
Yeah. I'll need to pick up a copy of that then.
Yeah.
What's the I know we're not supposed to ask, what's your favorite song in the album because it's like picking your favorite kid, but what song would you point to? Because you're such a versatile artist. I mean, in a broad term, I would categorize you as rock, but dear Lord, what is rock? I mean, there's such a breadth to it. But you're even beyond that. With the jazz and fusion and all that kind of stuff, blues, very, ballads, all that kind of stuff. You're incredibly diverse. So
what I try to do is make it my own.
Mhm.
It's not like I'm showing off. I can play this style. I can play that style. What I've always done is I study music. I study jazz. I study classical. I study different rhythms, different polyrhythms and things. But I have my own vision of what I want to hear musically, sonically. I like things that are dark. I like things that are melancholy, pretty, pissed off. It's a combination. My heroes are guys like Edward Van Halen, but also like John Scofield and John Williams, not the composer, the guitar player. Jimmy Page and Ritchie Blackmore. But it's not derivative of any of those people. Like I can say with certainty, Joe Bonamassa is derivative of Eric Johnson. Joe Bonamassa is derivative of Gary Moore, period. He just is. He's too derivative, I have my influences, but I'm not derivative of them,
Gotcha.
I would say I'm most derivative, maybe Michael Schenker, but Schenker doesn't get into harmony. He's a melodic player, but the tunes are simple. As far as songs go, it's more like 8 crayons in the crayon box. He doesn't have chord voicings in theory, and the key changes the same way. He's so melodic, and his vibrato, I can't help but have a delivery in that way. But then I study jazz, so I have different changes and harmonic things that are going on, I love Dimebag from Pantera, but my approach is going to be heavy, but then I'll have chords like fourths like Wayne Shorter or Bill Evans or Steve Kahn, and you hear it and you go, it just sounds like Jeff Kollman, It doesn't sound like anybody else. It doesn't sound like I'm from outer space like Alan Holdsworth. I mean, he literally sounds like he doesn't have any known influences. You can hear my influences, but it's not derivative.
It doesn't overpower you. Yeah.
Eric Johnson has his influences. He's influenced by Jerry Reed. He's influenced by Wes Montgomery. He's influenced by Chet Atkins. He's influenced by Jeff Beck and Keith Richards. But when you listen to him, it sounds like Eric Johnson, plain and simple.
Agreed.
So I think about that when I write. on 1979, the outro solo, the changes feel like something right off Venus Isle by Eric Johnson. And one of my dearest friends is also one of Eric's dearest friends, this guy, Alex Garcia. He got great ears, fantastic guitar player. Knows more about tone than most people. And I emailed him the solo. I said, "Does this sound too derivative of Eric? Because, man, I'm kind of worried." He goes, "No, no, no, dude." He goes, "I hear the changes. I hear what you're doing, but it sounds like you're safe." So I was like, "I'll go back to the drawing board." Because sometimes you're too close to something. You don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe I don't know if I'm sounding so certainly there's times where I've literally, like, paid homage to Edward, and I'm tapping on the guitar, and it sounds like Mean Streets, but I'll put a little disclaimer on the record, you know?
Yeah.
"Yeah, here's an Edward moment, and I fucking love him." And I was happy that I could do something that was even remotely in the league of what he does.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, one of my favorite tracks is a tune called "Blue for Miles."
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like the last song off the CD.
Right.
Um, and then certainly influenced by "Kinda Blue," that record by Miles Davis. I think
Mhm.
it's one of the most important recordings of the 20th century. And during COVID lockdown, I got obsessed with the record. I mean, we all kind of lost our mind a little bit. I just
That's for
lost
sure.
400 grand overnight. It was now we're touring. Great. 2 years of no work. Um, so I would just listen to that record nonstop. Every time I took a bath, the tub where you just sit for an hour and just sit there and, I always have a beer. Like Tony Montana from Scarface without the cigar. Instead of bitching at the TV, I have Miles Davis playing always.
Yes.
Kinda Blue every time.
Mhm.
And, flamenco sketches. I'm listening to the song going, "Ah." And then, I hear different things every time I listen to that record. And I love the way Bill Evans and the voicings and the sonic spectrum and Miles is so simple. And then you get like Coltrane and you can feel, the political climate and intention. And then you get Cannonball Adderley playing, and he's just so melodic and so free. Like he's kind of the unsung hero of that record. Obviously you go Bill Evans, you go Coltrane. Well, Miles wrote it. Well, Miles he wrote sketches. Okay,
Mhm.
Miles is smart because he surrounds himself with the best musicians in the world,
Mhm.
and he's usually the weakest one in the room, but he has the most vision because he's brought everybody together and he sketched out the idea. So that song is sort of like a nod to that era, like Blue and Green. But again, I made it my own, but it's definitely has something like a modern day, standard or something that, a guitar player version of, something off Kind of Blue.
Well,
So that's Blue for Miles. Yeah.
I've I think your album's one of those kind of things that come out rarely, where each song, depending on how your day's going, what your frame of mind is, can wind up being the favorite song. Last couple of days for me, Lullaby for My Love. I've been
Okay.
sharing it with people, telling people, check it out, all that kind of thing. Love that song. Probably one of your more simpler songs on there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I love it. There's just, yeah, it just hits, and, but I love the whole album. So what's your
Yeah.
feedback on the album so far?
It's been getting great reviews. I did one 2 years ago called East of Heaven.
Mhm.
And I got a page cut out with Guitar Techniques magazine, this feature song, and they gave it a 10 out of 10. Then they gave Eric Johnson's record a 9 out of 10. I was like, bad. So, and then they're saying this record is better than the last one. And they go, we gave it 10 out of 10. So I'm getting a lot of this feedback. Steve Lukather heard some songs. Then he sent me this 3 sentences of what he thought of it. And I go, I think Chip read it and he goes, will you use that as a quote? I texted Luke there. He goes, "Fuck yeah, you can, man. You got to show these fucking kids how it's done. These fucking millennials, their heads up their asses."
Yeah, Luke is always so low key and laid back, right?
Yeah,
So
he's subtle, but he said some amazing things about it, and then they added it in the press release for the vinyl. They said, don't take our word for it. And you know, for me, it's like, do I need to be a household name with everybody? No. And when people like Lukather or Vi or Richie Costin go, "Dude, you're one of my favorite players," I'm like, I remember Richie Kotzen came up to me after a set, and he goes, he was so humble, he was blown away, and Kenny Aronoff brought him to the gig. He goes, you don't know me, my name's Richie, and he just, like, blew me away. I'm like, "Dude, you're Richie Kotzen." I gave him a hug. "Yeah, you're fucking great." But it was so awesome, like, I was playing different that night. I was playing to a twin. I was doing some crazy country shit. I guess it must have been Kenny on drums because Kenny invited him. So, But when your peers, like, playing in front of Eddie Van Halen and him, like, complimenting you, that's all I need. I'm good.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things, we were playing the baked potato, and this guy John comes up to me, he goes, "Yeah, I managed Pat Metheny, and we were just played Royce Hall." He goes, "In fact, we were just playing Cosmo Squad on the tour bus." I'm like, "You guys listen to Cosmo Squad on your tour bus?" Pat Metheny. He goes, "Dude," he goes, "I was going to bring him out tonight." I go, "Oh God, I don't think I could have played." He goes, he stayed in because he was getting tired, but yeah, he goes, "Yeah, we listened to Cosmo Squad on the tour bus." I'm like,
Wow.
I can just, die and go to heaven. So
Luke
yeah,
Luke is the one person I've interviewed more than anybody else, 7 or 8 times, I think it is, and
he's a riot.
he's a riot. You never know what's gonna plop out of his mouth,
Yeah,
but I think the thing that most people don't get, one of the kindest people. Yeah, people attack him. They go after him. I'm like, why? This guy is so nice.
yeah,
You just gotta ignore what I mean. He has no filter, so you just have to ignore that part of it because he's just a golden human being. He really,
yeah,
in my opinion. So
absolutely. And like anybody, he's sensitive. It's not because he has a filter that he's not a sensitive human being. And he talks about in an interview, "Yeah, I was drunk one night, because he maybe lost a family member and he's kind of went overboard and he's playing the baked potato or something, or it's not his gig. He's sitting in. Somebody gets it on video, and it's lived for infant. It's not enough for him to be humiliated once or twice, but now it just lives forever on YouTube,
yeah,
and it just grows and grows. Like, dude, could you finally take that down?" They're like, "No, they'll never take it down because that's the world we're living in now."
yeah. Here's what made the world of difference to me about Luke. It was the first time, I think it was the first time I interviewed him. He was touring, he was in his second or third year touring with Ringo, and they were playing on the other side of the mountain from me over in Asheville, South
Right.
Carolina. He said, "Dude, come to the show." I said, "Okay." So he gives me a couple tickets waiting for me. First of all, there was a mix up. I text him, he chases it down in 5 minutes. The tickets were waiting for me. We go backstage and we're sitting there talking. He's wearing these red leather shoes from Italy or something, which I got a picture of them. They were hysterical. And we're standing there. We're standing there. Todd Rundgren walks up. I'm like, "Pinch me, just stick a fork
Yeah.
in me. I'm done." Right. Then Luke goes, he's walking around with an acoustic guitar, playing little riffs, talking, small talk, telling the kid his mini bike story and all that. He goes, "Well, you want to meet the boss?" I'm like, "Sure." So we follow him down this hallway, and I've got the picture of it, Jeff, where he walks in with Ringo. And all I did, I just stand back. I didn't walk up. I didn't do anything. And there was some kid, little kid there, probably 12 or 13 years old. And Luke and Ringo just zeroed in on that guy. I thought that was so cool. I got a picture of them getting their picture taken with the guy. And I thought, you know what? These people can say what they will about Luke. I didn't really get to talk to Ringo, but it's 15 feet from him.
Yeah.
But I just thought that's Steve Lukather. That is, forever I'll be his defendant, whatever, or
Yeah.
defender.
I will
And
too.
he's just super, super, super sweet. And I hate it when people attack him. So but it's
Yeah.
been a while since I talked to him. I hope to talk to him again soon. But that band Toto, oh my God, what an awesome band. Do you know Andy Timmons by any chance?
Yep. I know Andy.
Yeah, we used to live like 3 blocks from each other in Texas, and I think I'm gonna be talking to him next week. He just dropped that new single, that Beatles tune. You ought to check it out if you haven't
Yeah.
already. But,
Yeah, he's a great player. I get comparisons to him. Um,
I can see
yeah,
why, but there's big differences
yeah,
between.
we probably have similar influences. He's maybe a few years older than me. It's funny because I immediately goes, "Oh, the other blonde guitar player."
Some
Uh,
people mix him up with Brian Ray, so
yeah. He's a, he gave me his Beatles
Sergeant Pepper.
Sgt.
Yeah,
record, like, whenever that came out 10 years ago.
yeah,
And yeah, it's amazing.
yeah.
It's fun. I said NAMM, and I'm good friends with Mike Landau, and Mike never comes to NAMM. And Mike's kind of like, he's either normal or he's nuts. If he's drinking, and he was drinking, because who cares? And so Andy had never met him, and I came over to Andy's table to say hello, but I'm sitting with Mike and Karen, his wife, and he goes, "Can you introduce me to Michael Landau?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "Oh, this might not go well." 'Cause he can be mischievous when he's drinking. So he comes over and says, "Oh man, I love your guitar player. It's such an honor to meet you." And Mike goes, "Show your teeth." Show So Mike has this thing, when you die, the only thing that's gonna be left are your teeth and your bones, but his brain just goes right there, and he's like, "This is odd." I love Mike though, man. For me, he's the greatest living guitar player. I mean, everybody's great, but
Yeah.
he's the guy.
Well, I know we need to wrap it up because of your schedule, but what's on your radar for the rest of the year? Touring?
Yeah, so I'm in Escanaba right now. I have 3 shows with Kevin Chown and his drummer Dave Pott. Then we're doing Escanaba. Then we're doing something outside of Chicago. Then we're doing a gig in Toledo. And then I have a show with Lou Graham on the 27th.
Cool.
Then I have like 6 shows with Alan Parsons. I did a show with Alan 2 days ago in Newport Beach. And then I have a run with Alan in August, a couple shows in September with Alan, or October, mixture of both.
Mhm.
Late September, I'm going to, like Croatia or somewhere for the wedding of some daughter, and then we're going to play in the castle where they filmed Game of Thrones. And then I spend October, November, December in Japan playing with the Japanese Mick Jagger. We'll play like 5 nights in Budokan, and yeah.
Fun.
And anytime I can, I'm going to be promoting, playing. I want to get in, play clubs anywhere I can with my trio, and just start playing all this music live. So I have those gigs, with the artists that I play with. This, Alan's priority with that, and then my solo stuff, and
Alan's
yes.
on my bucket list to interview. I haven't hit him yet, but I want to before it's
Yeah.
too late. He seems
He
like
and
a
I
good
just
guy.
he and I just did one with Rick Beato. We played the Ryman Theater the
In
day
Nashville.
before we were in Georgia, and I'm like, Rick lives in Stone Mountain. Let's see, Peachtree is he's 40 minutes away, and I reached out to Chipster. He's like, yeah, we'll try to make it happen. And then I think Rick heard the words Alan Parsons. Like, yeah, we're gonna make this happen. It's funny because his cameraman, one of the guys says, "Don't you have to leave?" And he goes, "I'm not leaving today. We got a legend in here." And Rick's had a lot of legends.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, it's a wedding anniversary." And he goes, "Yeah, it's your wedding anniversary." I'm like, "You're not going to the wedding reception of your own wedding?" He goes, "Not till this is done." And he stayed for an hour and a half running that camera because Alan Parsons is in the room. I can't imagine the shit he took from his wife and the family.
Oh my gosh.
Survived it.
Yeah.
Talk about prioritizing something.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. For sure.
So that's the power Alan Parsons has. And they could have done a 3-part interview. I mean, it was fascinating what they talked about, how the mics were different from, Abbey Road to when he did Dark Side of the Moon, and how he approached this. And Rick's great because he asks questions nobody's going to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not,
Rick.
like, how did you feel when the Beatles walked in the room? Yeah, Alan's 18 years old. How do you think he's going to feel? He's going to be like, fucking, there's John and Yoko, and then he left, and Paul and Linda walked in. He told me personally, because I was pissing myself.
Oh, who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? The first day.
But hey, speaking of Andy, a while ago, this new single and this new album he's got coming out, he recorded at Abbey Road. So
There you go. Oh,
wow.
that's great.
So I need to interview Rick too. What a legend that guy is, in my mind at least. But
Yeah.
But are you going to be in Tennessee at all, especially East Park?
Well, we just played the Ryman.
Yeah.
June 30th. But
I miss that. Yeah.
shit. Uh, Other than like stopping by Gibson or something, I don't have any plans right now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
on the east part of the state. I'm 4 hours from Nashville
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm outside of Knoxville, just kind of,
Okay.
you know,
What would be the closest big city besides that? I mean, like how far is Pittsburgh?
Chattanooga. I mean, I'm up the
Chattanooga.
road from, from Atlanta. So,
Yeah.
but Chattanooga would be one. Asheville, North Carolina. Warren
Yeah.
Haynes is over there.
Yeah. We've
But
played those places. I mean, we just played Peachtree, Georgia the day before the Ryman. I could have invited you to that.
oh
We can talk
wow,
about gigs you just missed.
yeah. Well, and I've got in the last 7 months, my dad started showing signs of dementia, and I live next door to him, so I'm his caretaker, so I have to make
Yeah, it's hard
arrangements
to
ahead
get
of time.
away.
Yeah, it is. But man, if you're within driving distance, man, I want to come see you, shake your hand, and watch you play live instead of on
Yeah.
video this time.
Right. Yeah.
But man, this is a lot of fun, Jeff. Let's talk again
Yeah.
anytime you
Yeah.
have any project coming out. My door's open to you, and let's
Okay.
make it happen and just shoot the breeze, man. It's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
and I want to tell the people that they can order any of the music at jeffcoleman.com
All right,
or
especially the
Culmination.
vinyl.
Yeah,
Yeah, get
vinyl,
to see.
CDs, hoodies, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Jeff, thanks for taking the time, man. It means a
Thank you,
lot to
Randy.
me.
I
You're very
appreciate it.
generous with the time, and I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. I hope it wasn't too much of a pain to you. So,
No, it's perfect.
all right, good deal. Well, enjoy your time off, and we'll talk to you again as soon as we can, man.
All right, thanks, Randy. I
All right, take
appreciate
care.
it.
Bye bye.
All right, bye bye.